Hi, Jamie.
Hi, Lisa.
How are
How are
you
you?
doing? I'm doing fine. How, how's our rascally boy?
Oh,
Hi,
Rascally
Eric.
Boy is doing well. He's going to sit in front of me, and hopefully we're going to work out this sound.
Okay, you sound louder, so that's wonderful.
Good.
Eric, I love you.
He said, I love you, Mom.
I want to tell you that you have been very busy pranking and visiting the blog members, as we talked about before, but I also want to thank you because there are a couple of them that have been struggling and you reached out to help them.
He taps his chest. Thanks for saying that, Mom.
Oh. Well, we're going to ask some questions about the nature of death. We're going to have a very cheerful subject now.
Okay.
Well, a lot of people want to know, what does death feel like, Eric? What is it?
He just kind of looks at me and widens his eyes, cocks his head, and he's like, I can only speak for myself. Well, have you heard of other spirits talk about theirs as well? Can you give us different examples beyond you? Okay, ladies. He said, well, Mom, the way death felt for me was more of a, he goes, oh, hell, I don't know how to explain it. It's just, for me, I was in pain, and I was trying to remedy that myself, and then it was just like lights out, like going to sleep super fast. So he's saying that he doesn't have a feeling that's attached to it. It wasn't really even a process for him. It happened. He said, if you want to pull in other people, he goes, we can do that, but I've heard some people say that it feels like they're asleep, and when they come to, they really believe that they're in a dream, but it's not a dream, and they don't seem to really catch on until they recognize that the people who are surrounding them are people who have passed on. He said that there are some people who ease out of their body. They remain this consciousness the entire time. They know that their body has died. They step out or float up or pull away from their body. They look at their body, but there's no transcending. There's no crossing over into the light or whatever the hell you want to call it. Oh, Eric. He goes, come on, Jamie, keep up.
Okay, so is it ever painful for people?
The physical body is painful, but the act of death is not. Leaving your physical body is not. He
For
goes,
example,
he
uh-oh.
goes, is going to sleep ever painful?
No, I love it. It's a joy. But when people like fall out of buildings, for example, and they hit the pavement, doesn't that hurt?
He said, again, you got to take it per individual experience. Because sometimes, before they even jump out of that window, for whatever cause that it is, their soul could already be out of their body. Right? He says the afterlife, and I go, who does this? He goes, shit. He goes, angels, if you want to call them angels, higher beings, God, you know, you got to really listen to this you have to really listen to this material and shape the terms to fit your religious beliefs. He goes, in this way, I think you can understand more of what we're saying. He says, I know I get a lot of slack about the language that I use. He said, but come on, you got to understand, that's my touch, that's my flair.
That's right. We know it's you.
You show me an American that doesn't know the words that I use. He's like, give me some slack. So, he goes, we're talking about those that jump or fall, most of the time, because I'm just speaking in general, because again, I've got to take it per individual experience, that spirit is already being removed from the physical body before they hit the pavement. The lesson is done. The act of, I was seeing if I could understand what he was saying. The act of the death. Shit, Erik, you can't backtrack like that. It confuses me. If we're taking the example of leaving a window, there's many different reasons for leaving a window. It could be to end their life willingly. It could be to leave a horrific situation such as a fire or collapse of a building. It could have been accidentally falling. It could be all of these cases. That matters in how their exit plays out. Mm. But he said, in general, the exit is the act of the falling, not hitting the pavement.
Ah, that makes sense.
I hope this makes sense, because he said it's not truly the impact of the physical body where death occurs. Mm-hmm. Because it is for things like stroke, mm-hmm. aneurysm, heart attack. For these instances, it is what creates the body to separate from the spirit, the soul. Okay. But not so much in the case of falling. And again, not so much in the case of any other kinds of accidents, such as impact accidents, car accidents, nature accidents.
Been eaten by a bear.
That was the first animal that came to my head, was a bear. And he was like, Jamie, you're morbid. I was like, I'm not morbid. But he was talking more of falling out of a tree, losing footing while climbing, slipping off a mountain, rock, avalanche, things of that nature.
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about what happens energetically during death. Does something happen to the wave pattern or the frequency of our energy? Does our energy pass into a white hole? Because I understand from one physicist that every little electron, etc., is a tiny black hole, and that maybe, I'm just thinking, maybe those turn into white holes, or we pass through a white hole. What happens from the physics perspective, energetically? You did well in physics. Come on. You can do this.
I'm watching him adjust his legs and change his posture.
And also, is death like crossing an event horizon? That's...
What do you mean by that? An event horizon?
Oh, God, don't make me remember that. There's like a singularity...
He told me to think of it as crossing dimensions.
Okay, crossing dimensions. All right. But energetically, what really happens?
And layman terms. Mm-hmm. He's talking that when the body can no longer sustain life, that there is not a chance of repair. He said, and this is not the case of comas, because the body can still sustain life, but it needs to repair. Mm-hmm. Hence, the body shuts down. What was that word? No, you said layman. Come on. When the body can no longer sustain life, then the energetic pattern of the soul that's inside of you starts to disassociate to the physical body. It no longer communicates to the body. It's much like the concept of putting liquid into a jar. The liquid is contained by the jar, not part of the jar, but has to respect, you're getting into it, has to respect the boundaries of the jar to keep its shape. Mm-hmm. Good. He gives me more pictures, but I don't know how to explain it. But I think he did great when he said that the energy stopped communicating to the body, and it created a separation. And when it stops communicating, the energy is no longer tethered into lower vibrational wavelengths, if you want to call them wavelengths, dimensions, and therefore it eases into higher dimensions, much like you do when you go to sleep. Your subconscious takes over. It allows you to escape the physical planes. His example is outer body experiences when you're sleeping, astral projection, astral travel, that these are capable because the energy of the soul can experience higher dimensions without the physical body. This is the natural transition that happens when the body can no longer sustain life. And he said, and then you have these few that, we can call ghosts. He kind of straightens up his body. Ghosts. That even though their soul no longer communicates to the physical body, their willfulness, their demand, their focus is to stay in the lower dimensions for whatever reason. They don't get to experience that higher dimensional plane, the crossover, like the, let's just say, average Joe or Jane gets to experience. Because their focus is set on something either undone, something they can't leave. It's true when we say to living people and to dead people that your perspective is shaping your experience. There is still a consciousness wrapped around all these layers. What layers are you talking about? There's still a consciousness wrapped around the spirit in all the layers of dimensions, all the layers of vibrational qualities. You don't... What did he do? I put his elbow on his knee and he leaned in, kind of like some John Wayne move is how I imagine it to be. He says, I can't even say it. It's not ashes to ashes.
Oh, Erik. All right, well, let's stop part 1 and we'll move on to part 2. And I'm going to ask you in that part, we'll start out with what you said about neutrinos and basically how the soul is attached and how it unattaches from the body. So stay tuned for part 2, people.